Hey everybody, Casey Cadaver here. Doing my review of Night of the Living Dead, Romero's first, technically his first movie, not his first job. We covered that in the podcast coming up. Mr. Rogers gave his first job. Anyway, Night of the Living Dead. First of all, we wouldn't have the modern day zombie film if it wasn't for Night of the Living Dead, which is you can't overstate it. It is a masterpiece. It absolutely delivers throughout time. Um, the black and white. If you're afraid of black and white, don't be. Somehow the old camera still crystal clear with that black and white. But man, this movie gives me chills every time it starts. It makes me feel nostalgic for a time I wasn't part of. Though I'm definitely part of the generation that thinks we were born in the wrong time. Uh, but it's just incredible. If you haven't seen it, go for it. Spoiler warning for anything going forward. Definitely see it, especially if you can go in blind. It's incredible. Um, yeah, so uh, watching it again, I haven't seen it in a couple of years. Um, I'm even more astounded than I was the first time. Knowing a little bit more of what I know about cinema and um, horror and movie making. Not that I've made a movie, but just a little bit more knowledge I've gained over the years. Um, and just of the time of filming. So I love this movie for many different reasons. One, it's a zombie film. Two, it kicked off the series that went to my favorite film. Three, it was a big deal when it came out. Um, it had a lot to do. It kicked off and stirred a little turmoil with the civil rights movement. I mean, this is a pretty old movie, and it had a black lead. Um, a prolific and confident and intelligent um, black lead, uh, which hadn't been seen a whole lot at that time. I guess before we get into that, let's all talk about Barbara. Barbara is the worst. Barbara is entirely the worst. Yeah, let's start from the beginning. Barbara is the worst. With Johnny and her going around the graveyard, I think visiting their father, and they're just playful, brother and sister, brothers being obnoxious as we do. Uh, and just the famous line, "They're coming to get you, Barbara. Look, there's one now." And they're talking about an old man, seemingly old man, in the graveyard, and it's the first zombie. Um, and of course, Barbara's like, "Stop it! You're being ignorant." Which, if you haven't heard it, I discovered a slight sidebar. I discovered a lo-fi artist. I'm getting into lo-fi now. Lo-fi artist called Ben Living, and he does a little fun mix in with horror movies and horror genre media. Definitely check him out. But his one of Night of the Living Dead is my favorite. He makes Barbara tolerable, which is a feat in it of itself. Um, so the graveyard scene is great, and watching it this time, um, you have the appreciation of the first zombie and the fight, the tumble, the rowdy romp between Johnny and the first zombie when he comes back to save Barbara after he runs away playfully, comes back to save her. I had an interesting thought because the zombie and him are tussling, and then they fall, and Johnny hits his head on a tombstone and supposedly dies right there, supposedly, but dies right there. Um, and then immediately the zombie leaves him for Barbara, which raises some questions because zombies, at least in this world, further down the line, were seen as just very carnivorous and instinctual. Um, so it'd be interesting. It's an interesting thought, um, that this zombie would then give up a very easy free meal that he already made for another live one. Um, Later on in zombie movies, you see that, but at least they take a few bites and then move on, or they get pushed out of the way, or there's too many zombies on them already, so they go for the next meal. Um, so again, probably thinking way too far into this, but I like the thought that in this realm of zombies where we're not quite sure what started them, they did say radioactivity, possibly from a meteor, but does that defeat all this? I don't think so. We'll still go with it because radioactivity, you can make anything happen. So I was like, okay, so does the zombie eating human live flesh, um, are they actually after the flesh? Or with Johnny dying immediately from busting his head and the zombie moving on, does that mean the zombie actually devours and wishes to devour life and the soul? Like, is it more than just flesh and carnal instincts? Is it something more um mystic, you know? Um Maybe that's what they're devouring, and that's why a lot of zombie movies you see them take someone down, rip them open, take a few bites, and then just fuck off to the next thing. Probably just mostly for movie magic, but I don't know. I always like that's always like one of my favorite things about undead walking movies is what started it, what's the motivation, what's their desire, what's their drive, um, and what created them. Is always my favorite aspect of it. So that's a fun scene. And then Barbara, of course, as a woman in like the '60s, uh, in old movies, just oh my, oh, get in a car, can't drive the car, crashes it immediately, barely crashes it, just gives it some body damage, and then it doesn't work anymore. But then that also makes it interesting because in this movie, zombies use tools. The graveyard zombie then grabs a rock and bashes in the window and tries to pull her out. So they're intelligent enough to use tools at this point, which then brings into the question of like how much does decay um, have to do with the intelligence of the zombies, the movement, and all that. Again, I think way too much into it. I love zombie films, so that's fun to think about. Are these still cognizant zombies? Are they still available? Or still have the idea, the premises of basic human function to use tools, and what glass is, but they can't open a car door. So then you move to the farmhouse where we meet. Um, oh my god, how to forget this guy's name? Pause. Ben. Barbara finds Ben, and he immediately starts taking charge because she's a woman in the '60s and can no longer speak, take care of herself, probably can't eat. He might have to take her to the bathroom because she's so petrified. Again, she did just watch her brother die and try to escape a man who's trying to eat her, so we cut her some slack. Um, that's all fun. And then you kind of wonder how much of that is like her in a desperate situation and now finds herself in a house being protected or taken care of or even being confronted with a black man. It's 1968. The civil rights movement is like, let's just say Martin Luther King got shot this year. So like shit was going down. The funny thing is with all this, Romero never agrees or accepts the idea that he did this for the civil rights movement, casting an African American for Ben, the lead. He just said it was the best actor, but it can't help but lend itself to some social commentary during this time, especially once Harry Cooper enters the mix. Which, man, for the time again, uh, not to shit on the '60s, but like the acting, fantastic. I think that's one of the best thing about some of the acting in the older movies. Like there's that sweet spot is the fact that they really didn't feel like they were acting. Like it felt more real in how people reacted. Harry comes out of the basement, is screaming all sorts of things. What's Ben doing here? Um, Ben's asking, why the hell didn't you come up and help us before? And Harry says, well, we couldn't hear you. And then Tom comes up and he goes, oh, we could hear a bit of racket. It's like, Ben says, could you hear me or could you not? What's the story here? And Harry just fulfills that middle-aged man with probably a dead-end job who's miserable as wife, miserable in his life, and just takes out on everybody else instead of looking inward, because we see this happen constantly. Um, when he blames everybody else or thinks his plan is the best because it's his and everybody else is wrong. Um, but the acting's flawless. Like it really just seems like that's how it is because that's kind of how it was. Um, then Helen, God, Helen's the star of this movie. I don't care who says it. Helen's fantastic. Helen's Harry's wife. Um, and God, if she's not on like lithium to deal with this man, uh, that should be canon. That should absolutely be canon because she's just so chill. Harry, that's important, isn't it? That you're right. That's what's important here. They are right. Now that we're standing in a basement, our daughter has a chunk bitten out of her, and the world's going to hell. But no, it's very important that you're right. 3 cheers for Helen, man. Um, so then you got that. You got that quintessential power struggle between during any during any survival or time of panic, a struggle for power, who can take over the situation under the guile of being safe while actually just wanting the power and also ultimately trying not to feel helpless, right? So everybody feels better if they feel like they're in control of the situation, which can cloud judgment. um this movie shows that so well. um the impulse of wanting to be in control makes everything feel better. So the whole world is going out of control. At least you feel, in this instant, you're in control. You have the idea, of course, of all days, sirens are going by. Um, so that's what happens between Harry and Ben a lot of the time, mostly due to Harry wanting to go back down to the basement, saying that's the safest place. Ben having the old trope of being like, well, if we're in the basement and they come in here, we're stuck down there. At least we have a fighting chance to get out of the house. And Harry says, no, we should go in the basement. It's the easiest place. We lock it down and they can't get in any other direction. Um, so it adds emotion and inner turmoil. It's not just the zombies outside again. It's the human struggle inside the house. Um, which I always love that. And then every once in a while they cut to the zombies outside just walking around and being there. And a lot of times, I mean, I think the movie had $100,000 budget, a little over that. So it was like the same 12 zombies every time, but they were spaced well. That's so weird, but they were spaced well, and they were just kind of lingering and just kind of bouncing around. Nothing too aggressive, but they were just kind of meandering out there, which to me is terrifying. Like it's that idea that, oh, I can outrun them, I can get through them, I can take out one or two, and I can free myself. But then when Ben and Tom go to get the truck, they're very quickly surrounded. And it's a good thing Harry at that time decides to cooperate and drop some Molotov cocktails out the window so they can go get to the car and get some fuel and fuel up the car. Once they make that plan, um, that they're very quickly surrounded. They realize just how dire of a situation there are and how hard escape's going to be. Again, because of the times, Tom's wife runs out. Karen, no, Judy. Judy runs out, and goes against the plan, has to jump in with the truck, and not saying it's her fault. Kind of looks like Ben's fault because he set the torch down. Again, I'm speaking as if you've seen the movie, which I'm sure you have. Um, that he sets his torch down to go look, and then fumbles the gasoline, and of course it gets everywhere. Everyone's on fire, and Judy is stuck in the truck because she can't work her seatbelt. And so Tom goes in out there to help her out, and the whole thing explodes, and we lose the two younger cast members. And it's just like, yeah, well, because a woman was involved, everything went to shit. I guess I had to kill off everybody somehow. So now they're without a truck, back inside, and of course Harry does not open the door to let Ben back inside, and which leads to them teaming up afterwards when Harry gets his shit together and helps Ben lock the house back up. Leads to another rough and tumble fight. Only the early cinema can deliver. But I like that struggle. I like that Ben's like, okay, thanks for helping me board the place back up. But now he had to kick down the door, board it back up, and I almost died. So, fast forward, we get through it all. Everybody's dying. Another interesting thing. So eventually the daughter find out she's bitten. She's downstairs. Everything's going to shit. What is it? Harry goes downstairs to find Karen has woken up, and Helen had ran down there to check on her once everything was going awry and the zombies were breaking in, and Helen stabs her to death with a garden tool. So then that kind of goes against the idea of like zombies just want to eat and kill. Zombies just want to eat and devour. For some reason, Karen, the young daughter, decides to, after she's turned to a zombie, doesn't just go for her mom and tries to eat her. She takes a trowel and stabs the shit out of her panicking mother, leaves the trowel, and then goes and disappears into the basement waiting for her dad to come down, and then takes out her dad. So at that point, again, this movie seems to flip flop on the motivation of the zombies, or maybe it's just kill. Maybe it's more like 28 days later, like it's just kill at any means. And if you don't have a trowel, you eat them, or you tackle them onto a gravestone, or take a rock, break a window of a car, drag them out of the car, then eat them, or cause an explosion. But for some reason, Karen just needed to stab her mother. But then she did end up eating Harry, or at least his arm off. And then later, once all that happens, Ben goes. Okay, so this is the part that really stuck out to me. If you stuck with me, thank you. Ben goes down, sees everybody dead, right? Shoots them all in the head because they all start coming back alive because they just died by each other. Starts coming back alive, shoots them all in the head, and then just bunkers down, which I thought was so cool. I never really realized this before. Ben was an advocate of staying up in the house so they can leave, because if the zombies broke in, they have a fighting chance to leave the house, or at least fend for themselves, or run. Everybody's dead. Zombies come in the house. His plan was to stay upstairs and be able to run away from the house. But all the zombies are coming in, and where does he end up? The basement, where Harry said was the safest. Now Ben's down there by himself, and you can't help but think he's got to be reflecting on the fact that, well, he convinced everybody to stay upstairs by the radio, by the sun, the light, that kind of comforting aspect, um, and being above ground. And now everybody's dead, and now he's downstairs where he voted against was the safest place to be, and he stays there till morning, and he's the only survivor of this house, of this small group, because he got in the basement. It's kind of a neat little twist. I didn't really realize that the first time I watched it, but it is a nice little like quiet contemplation he is now forced to deal with after the tragic death of everybody from opening the basement. Uh, and then also you just gotta love the interviews with the, I think they call it like the kill gang, or basically the small town group of guys who have guns who deputy up with the sheriff and just walk through the fields and take out all the zombies, which again, great effects back in the day. You see kind of the face effects they try to put in there, but then you see the zombies get shot and there's something that explodes out of the back of their shirt. Like that's a neat little thing. Also, to the effect idea, they were just lighting people on fire. Like they had a torch, they just went up to a guy's coat, lit him on fire. Uh, People just roll around, the Molotovs just lit them on fire, and then they kind of wandered off screen to get put out, which you did what you had to do back then, and that was the way they did it. Shout out to all the casualties where those scenes did not go well in movies. Um, but so now we're at the end. Also, like, shout out to a little bit beforehand where Barbara got taken out by Johnny. The bring back to Johnny coming to the house as a zombie, and he came to get Barbara. They all came to get Barbara. We didn't lose anybody great on that one. Um, but then, so in the morning, Ben wakes up. He hears the gunshots, hears the dogs, comes out. He's like, "Oh my word, I'm saved." But still cautious. And this is where it kind of loses me. And if you want, you can. I know I talked a little bit about social commentary and the civil rights movement and all that, and I'm sure you could force this here, but it didn't really feel like it. So when Ben comes up out of the basement and he's cautious, but you can see he's hopeful, he aims a gun outside out of a window to try to navigate the situation and see who's out there because he hears gunshots. I mean, there could still be a horde out there. He could assist his own rescue. He's in the window. In my past memory, I thought he was just walking around the house kind of looking. No, he is in the window with the gun pointing it out the window, and it cuts to the sheriff and one of the deputies, and he goes, "Up, I see one moving in the house." He's like, "Yeah, I heard him. Take a shot there, Billy." And they allow the shot and take Ben right out. Poor Ben. Survived the night, survived the zombie apocalypse. That lasted all of 12 hours. Which, if you talk to any like survivalist, that's about how long a zombie apocalypse would last for this exact reason, because people are armed and they're slow. It would be more of a shock. But so in that way, this movie's kind of like more realistic than any other zombie movie. And they take out poor Ben. He dies right there as a survivor. So when I was talking about the social commentary, it could be, well, they saw a black man in the house, and he just said, "Up, there's one, take him out." I don't that it didn't feel like that at the end of the movie, so I don't want to add that to this review because it just feels forced. And yeah, it was, and again, Romero only hired him because he was a great actor, and he was, in this movie. But yeah, the tragic idea of a zombie apocalypse, like anybody could die at any moment. Everybody's paranoid, everybody's scared, and everybody could be a villain or a monster at any time, turning, what have you. So even if you survive, you may not survive. Gunshots are still real. shit still happens. But yeah, Night of the Living Dead, 5 out of 5. Um, for what it is, for the time it had, the effects, the drama, the acting, the cinematography, it still goes down as one of the best movies of all time. Kicks off some of the best movies that we've seen. Was the precursor to my absolute favorite movie of all time. That also had to deal with claustrophobia and the human condition to battle for power, um, amongst greater problems, uh, which is always going to happen. I like seeing that reflected in movies, that realism. So Night of the Living Dead, October 1st, 31 of 31. Hope you enjoyed. If you like this method of reviews, conversational commentary, check us out a little bit more. We release a podcast every week. My name is Casey Cadaver. I do it with Roxy for the Roxy Horror Casey Show. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere you listen to our podcast, and YouTube. Thank you so much. Stay spooky.